Okay, we're going to bring the City Council meeting for November 14th, 2022 to order, and we will begin with roll call, please.
Walters.
Here.
Dvorak.
Here.
Anderson.
Here.
Polk. Here. Sarchet.
Here.
Item number 3, approval of agenda. I'll ask for a motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented. Second.
And roll call.
Walters.
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Vogel. Yes. Sarchet.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 4, public hearings. It's time to close the regular meeting and open the public meeting on the proposed Polk City Area 2 Urban Renewal Plan Amendment. When was the notice published?
November 4th.
Have any written comments been received for or against the proposed amendment?
No, sir.
At this time, I would request any staff report.
I will provide a report, Mayor. Thank you. So the city is amending our urban renewal plan this evening to include 2 items for the amendment. The first item is the amendment for the Polk City Chamber and Economic Development Corporation Development Agreement. Are currently in a 3-year agreement with Go Polk City to fund them with tax increment financing. And this will be up to a 5-year agreement, up to $75,000 a year, or not to exceed $375,000. The second part of the amendment is the admin support program, and this allows us to reimburse any urban renewal activities through tax increment financing. And that amendment is for $250,000 for 5 years, or $50,000 per year.
Anyone present who wishes to be heard for or against the proposed amendment? Anything from the council?
Yeah, I again live up to Dave's drone when I walked in a couple minutes late to the workshop. So, just to restate what we talked about when we set the public hearing, this, with regard to the chamber piece, extends the same agreement we had previously for 3 years for 5 years, and does not lock us into anything. It just places the structure in place for their funding, and then the annual appropriations will take care.
You're looking at me. I'm not bond counsel, but that's my understanding.
Yeah.
That is correct.
I was going back and forth.
So you're amending the urban renewal plan. You still have to approve the development agreement for Go Polk City, and then you'd also have to annually appropriate. So it's a 3-step process.
Okay, great. I need a motion then to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
Second.
And we need a roll call.
Anderson.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Dvorak.
Yes.
So then we'll move on to A1, Resolution 2022-124 to approve Urban Renewal Plan Amendment, Polk City Area 2 Urban Renewal Area. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Dvorak.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Sarchet. Walters.
Yes.
Okay, we'll move on to 4B. It's time to close the regular meeting and open the public meeting on the proposed development agreement with the Polk City Chamber of Commerce. When was the notice published?
November 4th.
Have any written comments been received for or against the proposed agreement?
No, sir.
At this time, I'd like to request staff to provide a report.
So tonight's public hearing for the development agreement with the Polk City Chamber of Commerce, also known as Go Polk City, is a 5-year agreement with a do not exceed of $375,000 for 5 years, or $75,000 per year. This agreement is for fiscal year 24 through fiscal year 28.
Is anyone present who wishes to be heard for or against the proposed agreement? None. Council?
And these windows typically match up with the earlier agreement as well together. And
Yes.
then we're doing 5 instead of 3 because
We are doing
Why not?
5 years instead of 3 because it costs money to amend your urban renewal plan every 3 years. So we'll do a 5-year agreement this time, and I'd prefer to do 5 years. this is step 2 of step 3. So the council will have to take further proceedings still to issue payment to Polk City.
I need a motion then to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
DeVore.
Moving on to item B1 then, or B1, Resolution 2022-125, approving development agreement with Polk City Chamber of Commerce, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments, and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. A motion, please,
So moved.
Second.
and roll call.
Walters,
Yes.
DeVore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Moving on to item C, it's time to close the regular meeting and open the public meeting on the proposed FY 22-23 budget amendment. When was the notice published?
November 4th?
Have any written comments been received for or against the proposed amendment?
No, sir.
At
this time, I would like to request staff to provide a report.
The proposed budget amendment this evening is budget amendment number 1 to the fiscal year 23 budget. And the amendment includes amending for $200,750 in revenue and $1,189,358 in expenditures. I've outlined every item that we are amending for in tonight's memo. But I am asking the council to amend for an additional $988,608 in expenditures.
Is anyone present who wishes to be heard for or against the proposed amendment? Anything from the council? I need a motion then to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting.
So,
So moved.
second?
And roll call, please.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
DeVore, Anderson.
Yes.
Moving on then to C1, Resolution 2022-126, approving FY 2022-2023 budget amendment number 1. Motion, please,
So moved?
Second.
and roll call.
Walters,
Yes.
DeVore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Item number 5, and I'll say it slowly so Chelsea has time to get her computer ready, is a presentation from Bravo from Greater Des Moines, or Bravo Greater Des Moines. Thank you for being here, and it's up to you who comes up first. I will ask you, Bob, to state your name just for the record.
That's right. Robert Brownell, Polk County Board of Supervisors, here on behalf of you all, that I represent Polk City proudly, and 111 Court, about 309. The level of presentations will go from mediocre to good. We'll start off north to south, so we'll give you the straight scoop. Just wanted to mention to you that we, in Polk County, is kind of the metropolitan government there is. Although we don't have authority over any cities or anything like that, but we value the relationship we have with our suburban neighbors and suburban partners like you guys. Polk City's a double-digit growth city, and all of us in Polk County, so we love what you're doing up here. What's good for Polk City is good for Polk County, and what's good for Polk County, I think is good for the metro. So we're proud to have you as metro partners. I know there's some discussion about Bravo. I'm just got sworn in as the chair of Bravo this year. So I came just the right time for you guys, and hopefully you'll already consider it, and it's not nothing to do with me, I know that. But we will give you a little presentation of where Bravo's been, where we're going, and what our thinking is with respect to guys. And hopefully we can have a good discussion about what's next, and how are you, what are you getting out of Bravo, I guess maybe is a good question. Steve and I talked about this a bit, and thanks and look forward to talking to you about this today too. So I'll introduce Sally Dix. She's the executive director of Bravo. Sally, would you want to take it over?
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome, Sally.
Thank you so much. Good evening. And thank you so much for the chance to come and present a little bit about the work that we get to do on your behalf. I'm truly grateful for the opportunity to be here, and it is truly support from Polk City and the other local government partners that make Bravo's work possible. I do want to say a formal thank you to Supervisor Brownell, who's serving as chair of the Bravo board this year, and also to Bob Miller, who serves as Polk City's representative to the Bravo board. Every one of our communities does have a representative on the board, and Bob serves you well. Just a quick refresher, there are some new faces around the table, and I want to make sure that everyone understands first and foremost what Bravo is. Hopefully advancing the slides, but maybe not.
You can hit enter.
There we go. Just a little refresher. Bravo Greater Des Moines was formed in 2004 when business and community leaders recognized the critical role that quality of life would play in our region's future. It was determined that a regional entity dedicated to arts and culture would not only be efficient, but also effective. Originally a collaboration between 9 local partner governments, Bravo has now grown to 17 partners. We continue to act as a steward for hotel motel taxes contributed by our cities. We intentionally do very little additional fundraising so that we don't compete with the organizations we were formed to support, so we rely almost entirely on these public dollars. Bravo was formed primarily to serve as a regional centralized funder to the nonprofit arts, culture, and heritage community. We generally receive 2/7 of a community's hotel motel taxes, and we're able to leverage the resources of the region to make stronger, higher impact investments in arts and culture than if everyone was doing their own thing. Each community then keeps the remainder of their hotel motel revenue earned in their community to invest in tourism or other more local projects. We have evolved from that organization set up strictly as a grant maker, and we are proud of the direction that we're headed. We believe that arts and culture are actually contributing to every regional priority. They're not separate and over here. It's deeply integrated in everything we want to achieve. From talent development to economic growth, mental health to transportation, arts and culture can and should play a role. Bravo's mission and vision are regional, and we're focused on elevating and enriching a vibrant Greater Des Moines so that no matter where you live, you have access to world-class amenities as well as local treasures. There's a lot of good news here. We're very fortunate in the work that we get to do because the landscape is robust. On behalf of our 2080 partners, Bravo invests in 21st century world-class cultural attractions that allow us to measure up against other major metropolitan areas, including a nationally recognized professional symphony, an internationally acclaimed art center and public sculpture park, a zoo that serves nearly 500,000 visitors a year, a 110,000 square foot science center, and a 14-acre botanical garden. We know that residents of Polk City benefit from these amenities in real and important ways. In fact, we know that zip code data from 2017 shows that Polk City residents engaged in more than 3,000 experiences that year with the 7 organizations that were able to provide zip code data at that time. More recently, we know that from July of 2018 to the present, more than 4,500 total tickets were sold by Des Moines Performing Arts to Polk City residents, and 315 Polk City residents held season ticket packages to Des Moines Performing Arts. Residents of your community are also board members, donors, volunteers, and staff members to many of our cultural partners across the metro. We do recognize that even with those world-class amenities, a strong cultural landscape is not just about the large regional organizations, but also depends on more local organizations that are meeting the needs of their communities on a different scale. Central Iowa has a lot to be proud of here as well, and Bravo is pleased to be funding 13 local choirs and community bands that are engaging residents who want to continue their musical experiences, 8 local theater companies for volunteer set designers, costume creators, and performers. We currently fund 7 local historical societies who are deeply committed to telling the stories of the places they proudly call home. And we also fund 9 cultural festivals that show the rich cultural tapestry of our region and celebrate the diversity of our communities. The majority of these entities are not likely drawing tourists to be filling our hotels, but they are still adding important depth and richness to individual communities, which ultimately adds to the region. Bravo's strategy that we're best known for to advance our mission is our grant making, or what we call community investment. We do take our role as stewards of public funds extremely serious and are proud of the work we've done Since 2006, we've invested more than $50 million in more than 100 organizations. Recognizing that there are a variety of needs across the metro, we're currently running 3 grant programs annually and hope that there's something for everyone to access those available public funds. First, we run our operating grant program, which provides general support to our 501c nonprofit organization partners. This is our bread and butter and what we were formed to do. This was happening before Bravo existed, and we are happy to continue this legacy. Our board is committed to pitching a wide tent with respect to this funding, so every single eligible organization that applies receives some level of funding from Bravo through this program. Note for Polk City is although they've never applied, it does appear as if the Big Creek Historical Society would be eligible for funding. As I said, we're currently funding 7 other local historical societies with awards between $1,000 and $30,000 a year. In a couple of weeks, we're going to announce our 2023 investments that will go to 85 cultural partners in 14 of the 17 communities that invest in Bravo. 10 of those organizations are our legacy partners. They are the ones with budgets of $2 million or more. These are the organizations that are driving tourism and generating the revenue that supports Bravo. But I think it's important for you to know that 68% of the organizations we are funding have annual operating budgets of less than $200,000. And more than 50% of them are entirely volunteer run. We are supporting a wide range of organizations with a variety of different needs. Our award amounts will range somewhere between $250 to our smallest organization, up to as much as $500,000 to our largest organization. So again, the range is wide, the breadth and depth is there, and we did actually overhaul our program fairly substantially this year, recognizing that the application process needs to meet the return on investment that any organization is likely to receive. And so we've adjusted our processes to make it more accessible for different organizations, and also to make sure that the cultural partners that are receiving the larger share of the fund are providing enough information for us to be good stewards of those investments. In addition to our operating grant program, we run a competitive grant program for capital projects, for large-scale projects. That is also open to our 501c partners, and there's generally about $150,000 available annually for that. In 2019, we introduced a new grant program for the first time in my tenure at Bravo, which has been almost 9 years. And we introduced a public art grant program to directly support communities that want to generate more artistic and cultural expression locally. We know that not every city investing in Bravo has a range of nonprofit partners that are eligible for funding, but many communities still want arts and culture to be part of their landscape. So this program is actually directly for our municipal partners, and it's for funding the creation or installation of public art or the creation of a municipal public art master plan. This program unfortunately was suspended in 2021 and 2022 due to lack of funds coming into Bravo, but we are proud to be reintroducing it in 2023. We'll be allocating $150,000, and Polk City is an eligible applicant for this program. Although we've only run this program for 2 years, we've already invested nearly $375,000 in 15 projects across the metro. We are confident that there is accessible opportunities for every community to receive funding through Bravo from one of these 3 programs. In addition to our grant making, Bravo also provides leadership on arts and cultural issues and opportunities. These are things that Bravo is uniquely positioned to do or contribute. And a few recent examples of this work that also benefit Polk City include the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study that we're currently engaging in as a partner with Americans for the Arts. The most recent study that was completed in this collaborative study indicated that $185 million worth of economic impact was generated by the nonprofit organizations Bravo was supporting. For your frame of reference, that year Bravo invested about $3.5 million worth of public funds, and the organizations turned it into $185 million worth of regional economic impact. We are excited to get that data back. It will not be until next year. This is a study that's being completed in 380 communities across the country. So we'll not only have data for our region, but also comparative information across other communities that we are interested in learning. Passport to Culture is another program that we run through this community impact work. And this is a program that used to be called Connecting Kids and Culture. It is where we provide funding directly to school districts so that elementary school students in grades K through 5 have the opportunity for in-school experiences, outreach, programming, or field trips. Polk City and the North Polk Elementary Schools are currently receiving more than $2,500 through this program to support those experiences. As I said, Bravo is continuing to evolve and continuing to grow. In order for us to reimagine our future, we want to make sure that beyond economic impact and quality of life, a resilient and connected cultural landscape is seen as essential to achieving all regional priorities. We already play a leadership role in this work, and in June, our board approved a new strategic plan, which firmly commits our evolution into a true regional arts council. We will maintain our primary focus on nonprofit organizations, and grant making will remain our core primary function. But for us to remain nimble and responsive to the future vitality of the sector, we will intentionally focus on a broader scope of services. We will only undertake work that we are uniquely positioned to do and do well, but we're very excited about expanding to be more than just a grant maker. We never want to minimize that, but we're very excited about the potential for our future moving forward. As we conclude, I do certainly want to acknowledge, I know there are many competing priorities for the limited public dollars that you have, and we are incredibly grateful for the investment that you've made in Bravo. We are proud of the fact that for every public dollar that has been invested in Bravo, the organizations and programs we support are generally returning about $50 worth of economic impact, which is pretty substantial return on that investment. Polk City invests about $7,000 a year. You get eligibility for grant programs to support your historical society and your public art programs. You get direct funding for school arts experiences for North Polk Elementary School students. And you get access to regional world-class cultural amenities across the metro that are employing Polk City residents and engaging your citizens as donors, volunteers, participants. I really want to thank again Bob Miller for serving as your representative to the Bravo board, and Bob Brownell for serving as your Polk County Supervisor and representative here this evening. And I would be delighted to take any questions. I'm sure Bob and Bob also be happy to answer any questions if there's anything we didn't cover. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sally. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Bob, you were going to speak too?
Well, sure, I can give something up. But as you know, I've been fortunate to represent Polk City on the board for a number of years. I sort of lost track, but anyway, I am a believer in Bravo and the good it does for not only our community but the whole metro area. And I think that, you know, as Sally pointed out, some of the big picture items that play into this benefit our citizens, and you know, for the number of years I functioned as part of the Arts Council here in Polk City, and we did our best to stimulate some applicants and things that didn't ever happen, but you know, I know that just like I'm so proud of our new mural here, which was is just new within the last year. I think that's a great addition, and our first kind of one of our first, I will say, kind of putting our toe in the water as far as public art goes. I think that's great, and I think it'd be good as we expand that over the years, and Bravo can be a player in that and help make that happen. And you know, she mentioned having a plan, a overall plan for public art. I think that would be a great first or second step, or however you want to say that, but I'm a firm believer in having an overall plan for something like that. So, I know a lot of you have been to utilize many of the cultural things that we talked about that are part of the Bravo funding, and so I can only state my support, I guess, for Polk City continuing to be part of, excuse me, part of Bravo, whether I'm involved or somebody else is, but I think it's important that we continue to be a player in the arts and culture. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. I think we only have 3 people who are going to speak on that. I don't know if anybody has any questions for Sally.
I'll go. Dave's still side-eyeing me. A couple things, and eventually get to a question. First of all, thank you for coming. As someone who's at times been critical of different regional organizations, don't even bother to show up. And I know you referenced 17 organizations fully recognized. If we're not 17th, we're much closer to 17 than we are 1. And so I get all that. The discussions that we've had, and from my perspective, have never questioned the effectiveness that you guys had. And Bob referenced the mural, and I want to point out that Bravo is already a part of that. I reached out to you, and you connected me with Liz, and we ultimately went with a different artist, but it was a ask for help and immediate response, and I do appreciate that. And so everything that I've interacted with Bravo on has been very well done. I certainly recognize as the size of Des Moines being what it is, it needs a regional organization like that. I do sometimes wonder, as someone, or as a member of this community, sometimes we're a part of the metro, sometimes we're not, and have questioned the motivation. I don't, again, for Bravo, I do see the value. Candidly, though, I do still wonder, could we better utilize that money to I'm very limited in my art capability, but just being able to fund a mural like that every year on our own. But I know that comes with, none of that is to say that the 2/7 that is going to Bravo isn't being used and we're not seeing a return. That's not the case. I think, as you referenced, the limited resources that we have is a good discussion to see if the regional organizations that we're a part of are still playing value. So, some of I didn't realize that the Big Creek Historical Society was eligible. I know we talked about different organizations in the past. So I don't know what the timeline is for our discussion, if we have one at all, but you have made the decision to her in a positive way, at least from my perspective, because like I said, I knew the value that Bravo was providing holistically to the metro, and with a little bit more active and a little bit more diligence, I think on our part, we could utilize that too. So that's where I'm, I guess. Thank you again for coming.
So in my eyes, it was perception versus reality, and the perception was I didn't know what the opportunities were for us utilizing the avenues that you have of funding for the 501(c)(3)s, and then also the arts piece of it. I don't think it takes a lot to get a positive return on investment on that, on the $7,000 a year, right? So I don't know if we have utilized that. That's something we need to talk about. Maybe weren't necessarily had somebody that was in charge of or responsible for asking for the money. Did somebody say that we have put in grants in before or have put in requests? So
I don't think we have. I think we've
for any.
So the arts, what was it called? The Arts Council?
Polk City Arts Council.
Yeah, they would have been eligible. It's no longer active.
Yeah.
Like I said, didn't know that the Historical Society was, or maybe that's new, but.
Well, and so that is a deal changer. I mean, when you talk about the opportunity not only for the.
And I think, Rob or Dave, but it's been, and this is before my time on the board, but that maybe back in the days when Tom Cox was heading up the historic, I think maybe they did get some money, and that's been a long time ago now, but in the early days.
And I think appreciate you coming because it does put a perspective and shine a light in the corner where we could potentially utilize the dollars, and as the stewards of the taxpayers, the most important thing is to make sure that we can explain to where that money is going. I could not do that before. I did not know what the opportunity was. Now I do. So that for that amount of money, there is, if we can utilize the avenues for funding, I believe it would be very easy to get those dollars back. It's kind of like having a gym membership and never going to the gym. If you don't use it, you never know, right? It's there, but you don't necessarily utilize the opportunities that are there. So I appreciate you guys coming in and talking about this. And I just really wanted to hear what the story was. If it's 1,000 or 100,000 or whatever the case may be, it's very important. Every dollar spent.
And Dave, I wanted to probably direct your attention mostly, as you mentioned a few things that may be eligible. The public art grants part of it is one that the city can apply for itself. And there's been a lot of cities that have done that, and in big and small ways. But mural project you did not hear with instantly. If you want to do more of those, that's a matching grant. You cut your investment in half that, or do even more of them. But different cities have done different things. Chelsea may be talking later in the week about some other grant opportunities that have nothing to do with this, but also some do. So I think there's some opportunities there for you, as you say, really get your money back. I mean, that's not really the way to look at it, but
ROI.
there's ROI there.
You got it. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And I do think we have some opportunities as we look to potential art projects here in town, conversations with the Historical Society. But I also think some of the other information you provided is helpful, the data on how much our people are using those things. And, you listed off the zoo, the science center, those places. I like to think that our little small contribution wouldn't make or break those organizations. But, you do see that, our community members are utilizing those. So that was very helpful information as we're thinking about how we spend our taxpayer money. Clearly, they appreciate the amenities that are offered that are outside of our community as well.
You're not so small, man.
I know.
Your heights now. I noticed. So.
We're moving along, but.
So I just wanted to follow up on one thing, Sally. You talked about the public art master plan. Does that include a master plan for Polk City if we were to request that?
So if you wanted to apply for the public art grant, there are two things you could apply for. You could apply for a piece of public art, something you wanted to install. Your mural project would be eligible for funding. The other thing that's eligible for funding, though, is if you wanted to create a public art master plan for your community. Bravo would pay for 50% of that as well. So as Bob said, it's a matching grant, but you could double your money or cut it in half, depending on whether you're a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person. But we would be willing to invest in it. Now, ultimately, it would be on the city to complete that. We do not complete the master planning process. We can connect you with consultants who can help you. We can connect you with other communities that have done this work. And they do run the gamut. There are different cities at different places on their public art journey, and we would be a resource and a partner for you. But ultimately, it would be on the city to commission and that.
Thank you. That's a good question, Steve, because I think we've done some of the foundational work with the visioning, even just identifying the potential opportunities. What do we have? 15 plus places that we thought a mural, and that was before the roundabout got done. It was another sort of sculpture, whatever you want to call it, maybe a bronze.
I wondered where you're going to put that.
Down there where somebody can run over it.
But I do think that would be something that, having done a decent amount of the work already, it would be nice to have at hopefully a relatively small amount, since a good chunk has already been done, if it's what I think it is.
We invested in the city of Grimes to complete a public art master plan in, I'm going to say 2020, but it all feels like it was last year or 10 years ago. But I think it was 2020 we invested in Grimes for a public art master plan. We put in $10,000, the city matched that with $10,000, and now they have a really solid plan and are planning to apply for the public art grant to then begin activating that public art master plan. So there's a similar community, similarly situated, similar size. They don't have any nonprofit organizations, but this was an opportunity for them to receive funding from Bravo. So potentially there would be a connection there, and you could talk to them about how that process for them worked and what opportunities we have. But that's an example of Bravo funding for that type of.
Okay, good information. Okay, thank you. Sally,
Thank you.
Bob,
Thank
Bob, we appreciate you coming tonight.
You bet.
So we will move on to item number 6, which is the public comment section. This is the time and place for comments for any item other than those that are a public hearing. If you had wanted to speak, you would have needed to have contacted the city clerk by 6 p.m. today. Have we had anybody who contacted us?
One person.
All right. And will you come to the podium, please? Are you Kyle?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry,
And then,
I'm a rookie to this. so.
okay, Kyle, we'll ask you to state your name and your address for the record, please.
Kyle McGraw, 425 Marine Drive. I'm new to this. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me here. I'm here to comment tonight on the legalization of ATVs and ATVs on Polk City roads. I talked to the police chief this afternoon, and I ride with a large group of riders throughout the greater Des Moines area. We feel that the perception that UTVs and ATVs get on city streets versus the reality of what we actually do, their feeling for perception is a nuisance. We're running up and down the roads when outdoor miles per hour. But the reality is we actually house organizations, group rides for donations. For our last one was for the Iowa Service Dogs of Iowa. We raised over $50,000 for that. We bring a lot of business into local businesses in our surrounding towns. We do group rides. It's more of a, we're not going to race around town. I'm going off subject here, but anyway, as far as the safety of these the UTVs, I don't feel that ATVs are safe enough to be on the roads, just for the fact of they can go too fast. They can create accidents, so on and so forth. UTVs, I have one myself. I have a 4-seater. It's as long as a car. It's as big as a car. The DOT makes it or regulates us to 35 miles an hour. Seatbelts, turn signals, stoplight, stoplights, windshields. We have as much regulation on our UTVs as cars, and we have to be over 18 years old in order to drive on the roads. The police chief did say something today about they might, a 12-year-old might get into it. That's a perception. The reality is, I think, as much as these things cost, they cost $20,000 to $40,000, $50,000. A responsible individual isn't going to let just a 12-year-old jump in these things and drive up to the square. And that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of benefit to it, as far as the community and what we can bring. The riders can bring into it. During summertime we boat, so in winter time this gives us something to do. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Kyle.
Thank you.
And you did a great job, I believe.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. Okay, so we will then move on to item number 7, consent agenda, and I'll ask for a motion, please.
So moved.
And roll call.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
DeBorak, Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Okay, item 8, business items. A, resolution 2022-141 approving offered purchase real estate and acceptance. We'll have a motion and a second first, and then Chelsea speak.
Second.
For the council's consideration this evening is a purchase agreement for 314 South 3rd Street. The city is offering to purchase the property for $220,000, and we would allow the current owner to remain in the home until August 1st of 2023. Those are the major highlights of the purchase agreement.
Questions, council? If not, We'll ask for a roll call.
Walters,
Yes.
DeBorak, Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Item B, resolution,
Before we move on, did you have something to say, Sean?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Item B, resolution 2022-142, updating automatic aid agreement, Ankeny Fire Department. Motion and a second, please.
So
Second.
And Chief?
So the automatic aid between Ankeny, everything's going to stay, but with with just call volume going up, the busier our city's getting, met with Ankeny chiefs, and it's decided to discontinue the change of quarters portion of that. We get called, so far this year, we've gotten called 233 times for Ankeny. So what that means is it's pulling our ambulance away from our city to go and sit just in case they get a call. There's been at least 5 instances that have happened, pretty close calls, I would call them, to where our ambulance was in Ankeny and needed them here. So it's kind of the main driving point to why I want to get rid of this agreement. We do bill for them, so we billed 167 times so far this year, and only 40 of those have turned into calls. So everything will remain the same. They'll call us for mutual aid, we'll call them, but we're just going over there entirely too much and taking our ambulance out of town entirely too much. They maybe came once this year, so it's just, we're basically acting as their fourth ambulance for them. So I think it's time, just with how busy we're getting and all of that, just discontinue agreement.
I think that's a good idea. The first time I've ever heard that. We've updated every, I've been here for a few years, but it's come up every year, every 3 years, I don't remember, probably every year. And I've never really heard the numbers, but just thought, wow, that's a great idea in case ours is out, backfill, but it's really just a one-sided at this point, right? So I think I like it. I mean,
I like it. This is great information here, and I think this is the critical information here. But I think too, at least a couple firefighters that I've talked to, this will be favorable for retention and recruitment as well. As they've said, a lot of who is on our fire department right now is people that want to serve the community of Polk City. So I think too, spending their focus and time a little less on just going and sitting in Ankeny while they have this turnover. Again, it was great that we were able to have some, help them out for a while, but especially as calls are going up and staffing can be a challenge, I think it's a good time to make that choice.
Yeah, I met with all of the chiefs in Ankeny, and they're very grateful for everything we helped them with. They said it's just a matter of time until this happen, and they're hoping they can get some more staff to be able to fill those calls themselves.
So Chief, isn't Ankeny building another fire station?
Yeah, it'll be a northwest corner, and I hope it'll be ready for 25-26.
So this would be impacted anyway, eventually.
Yeah.
Well, I commend you just not allowing a cautionary tale to be the impetus for this. So I know it's going to be a boon for the guys, for the people in the department, not to have to go or halfway over there sometimes at 3 in the morning. And then, like you said, only a small percentage of the time going to call. So good job.
We knew in the past how lopsided the numbers were. We knew that. We visited. That's when we started billing, and they got even more lopsided. Thank you.
Jenny, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Sarchet.
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
DeBorak,
yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel.
Yes.
Item C, second reading of ordinance 2022-2400, amending chapter 75, Polk City Municipal Code regarding the use of all-terrain vehicles and off-road utility vehicles within the city. I'll ask for a motion, please.
I'll move.
And a second?
Second.
And roll call vote.
Can I make a comment first?
Sure.
So Kyle, I appreciate you coming and adding some context to this. From my perspective, so we're updating this based on the state's changes, as I'm sure you're aware of. I do think that and so I'm inclined to go ahead with this, especially since we started the process, but I think your context helps that there could be, so I don't know what the time frame is, but ATVs, UTVs, talked about golf carts, and I'm in the minority, but I think given the proximity and the makeup of our community, could be some opportunities there going forward. Don't want to go against the chief, but I will see that safety is always going to be an issue. It is for everything, whether you're driving a motorcycle or a tractor or a car, all of which are legal on the road now. So despite going ahead with the restrictions that we've got out here, I do think it's worthwhile to revisit what that looks like, when exactly, but I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of solace, I guess.
Yeah, no, I wanted to acknowledge your comment as well, and I appreciate the additional context and some of the values, the restrictions around certain types, so some stuff for us to think about in the future, as again, it's not specifically pertaining to what we're agreeing to or voting on tonight, but something to keep in mind. But as I've thought about this too, though, I think you're probably not the type of person that I'm thinking of when I think about the risks here necessarily. It sounds like you're, like I said, well-versed in the safety, things like that, but I know in a community of a lot of kids that, the more of these we have parked in people's garages, the easier it is for those kids to try. And that's where, I think too, is some of the safety concerns from my end would come from. But like I said, I really appreciate the additional information to consider.
I would say you're maybe the rule, not the exception, with the folks that have, right? And that's what always is scary, is the exception piece of it, where it's available so people go. People get in it.
There's always that one everyone.
And that's always the scariest part. And
100%.
so, but your passion is appreciated and, definitely considered, because nobody's ever really, when they come out and talk about it, it makes a difference.
Right.
So really do appreciate you coming.
Would you guys consider a temporary to see how it goes? Because I'd be willing to put up to organize a fundraiser for a local organization. We had one we had for Service Dog of Iowa, we had 32 buggies, we raised $15,000.
Yeah, the temporary part is intriguing. We need to make a decision based on the requirements and not,
Absolutely.
your intention is well founded, but, raising money for an organization is kind of irrelevant to the particulars of whether we have them on the road or not. And I don't want to, if you want to do one, great. But I don't want to commingle a decision here based on the safety and the other factors versus just talking from my perspective. But
thank you.
I think some advocacy for that group would serve you well, maybe in a little bit different thing.
What would you recommend they do to help advocate for that? Like, what would be some of the steps that you guys recommend?
Are there, I know there's not, but if there's any analogous rules in maybe not in the metro, but in other communities that have a big creek and state park and other things, just for reference, that would help me.
Okay, so you can bring that up with any council member at any time and have that discussion.
Perfect, no, thank you.
But for now, we're just going to have a roll call vote on item C.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet, Walters.
Yes.
DeVore.
Moving on then to D, third reading of ordinance 2022-2300, rezoning Hollywoods from R2 and R2A to R1 single family residential. I'll ask for a motion, please.
Second.
And I don't think we have a report on this. Council, anything? No. Then we'll ask for roll call.
Vogel.
Yes.
Sarchet,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
DeVore. Anderson.
Yes.
Item E, Snyder and Associates Engineering Services, September 2022 invoice in the amount of $23,638.50. I'll ask for a motion, please,
So moved.
Second.
and a roll call.
DeVore,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Sarchet, Walters.
Item 9, reports and particulars. We will begin with staff.
Everybody talk at once.
Well, I will say, Jason, I thought you had a good report.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
It's reassuring.
In our packet.
That was report, not rapport.
Well, he has that too. Anybody else? Okay, great. Chelsea, anything to add?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Council?
I have two things. So, first one, relatively quick, Chief, Holgrave, I know we've added a couple more folks and we've added so many people, have kind of gotten numb to it, but I don't want to lose sight of when you took over personnel, or the amount of personnel was one of our biggest issues. And I think without fail, every month that you've been here, you've added folks, and I appreciate that. I know it's not an easy thing, and so want to recognize and encourage the new hire and an intern, which so great opportunity. We had a lot of success with those in the past, so appreciate your work there. I also wanted to bring up, so had a 20-minute conversation with Dixie Beckwith, who runs the comic cover last week, and just so heartening to hear her perspective, and so I wanted to give her a little bit of shout out, and her in particular, but two other, so in talking with her and kind of seeing where they're at and identifying the need that they still have, in my simple brain, comic cover came up because of COVID. It went away when COVID went away, but it did whatever it did, right? And that's not the case. And so it was just so encouraging to hear her talk about how they don't have requirements. They trust people. They go through their process and allow people to take what they need. And I know you can't do that everywhere. Other organizations, food pantries especially, have qualifications and requirements. And the things she sees, I can only imagine how both encouraging and probably sometimes debilitating, quite honestly, are. But she singled out a couple folks, one of which, Chelsea, how integral the grant that we helped, that you helped, and staff helped get, how foundational that was for them to do what they do. And then I ran into her at Fairway, and I did not realize the amount of food that Fairway gives to the cupboard every week. And so I didn't know that, and maybe that's on me for not paying attention, but I already knew that we had a good partner in Fairway, a good addition to the community, and this was just another piece of it. And then in talking to her, and I think most people know Dixie, and so in no way, shape, or form was she trying to draw attention to herself, but just in talking to her, she's like, well, I remember when I was on this board, I did this. And she did that like 3 different times, talking about how often and how pervasive her giving has been to this community. So again, from a different person, it would be one of those backdoor, pat on the backs. And I know that was not, she was talking, but she couldn't help but talk about all the different school board and church and all these things that she's done. And
Library board president.
Yeah. Yes. Didn't even know. Yeah, I did know that one. I did know that one. That's right. So sitting up here, have the opportunity to highlight those folks, and probably don't do it enough. And I know we've cited her, and she's been Person of the Year, but it's been a while. So I thought I would reiterate another quality individual, of which we have a great number here. But I was going there to feed my fat face and got way more than I went for. So
Thank you.
Thanks.
sharing that. That's important. Those are the people we're running out of in Polk City. People participate like that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is it fair to say that well, it is fair to say, I'm attorney questioning. There's the opportunity, we're coming up on Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we notice all those. We're going to not notice those that are way more in need than us, because that's what we do as a community. We just don't necessarily think about it. We think about it during the holidays. And for the 4 people that watch and everybody here, that will watch this meeting, maybe 5, I think we just, as a community, need to have a little bit more, myself included, just exposure to that, and our hearts opened up to giving in whatever way that may be to those in the community through Comic Cupboard. I'm sure Dixie knows families that, Thanksgiving isn't necessarily going to be what we're used to having as Thanksgiving, and Christmas being the same. And I know in the past we have a group of guys that get together, and we've helped try to do that, to provide to the folks that need it and aren't going to come forward and raise their hand. So I just, shameless plug to those. I feel like servant leadership in our need to try to do better. I look in the mirror every day and say the same thing. So that's just my thoughts. I wanted to just put that in. This will probably be the only time. Not Thanksgiving, right? We go home. Either way. So thanks for bringing that up, Rob.
I would have 2 things to add. One is, since our last meeting, participated in 2 very, very nice events that were organized by our Chamber of Commerce. One was the Home State Bank groundbreaking. I'd never participated in a groundbreaking ceremony before, and thoroughly enjoyed it. The other was the Big Creek Elementary ribbon cut. And there are a lot of people there, got a tour of the building. I know Mandy was at the ribbon cutting, and Chelsea was at both, so that's great. That is a great example of progress in Polk City, and I personally look forward to it. So, my comments. I will ask for a motion to adjourn then.
Before I do, I'd just like to say that and it was very appropriate that Bravo was here tonight. I attended the North Polk musical this weekend. My wife went to both performances. What a bunch of talented students. And it's a comment to our grade schools, to all of them. It was really fun. And that's about as corny as I get. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We are adjourned until November 28th. Thank you, everybody. Thanksgiving is before that.